By now, I suspect, when you see me up here, you automatically expect an amusing story about how surprised and challenged I felt when I looked up the assigned lectionary reading and learned what God had dealt me this time. I did look up the assigned readings, and I did read them. But upon reading them, I knew that at this critical time in the life of our church family, when we are mourning so many losses in such a short time, we don't need to discuss whether, on the final day of judgment, a woman married 7 times will be deemed the wife of the 1st, 3rd, 5th, or 7th husband. There was also another option that was available to me for when Pastor Leah asked me to preach while she was away for her mother's funeral. She suggested I could take on the next scheduled question in our sermon series, the question of what happens after we die. Is there an afterlife? I passed on that one too. Certain that I don't know the answers to those questions, and certain that I won't be figuring them out anytime soon. Instead, I decided to follow my heart this morning. A heart that, like many of yours, is heavy with loss and grief over all the loved ones we as a congregation have lost in the past few weeks. Beloved Bob, Leah's mother, Marilyn, Mariana, Jean, and I know that some of you have suffered additional losses in recent weeks as well. It feels like we have been passing together through the valley of the shadow of death. I, for one, feel vulnerable. I feel sad. I feel grief. I feel sorrow. I feel disbelief. But it's also more complicated for me than just those feelings. During the very moving musical tribute to Bob Smith here in our sanctuary on Monday evening, I had a strong feeling of Bob's presence in the room. In my mind's eye, I vividly saw his face, the way his eyes twinkled and his whole being beamed when he sang, or when the choir got it right, or when a child, any child, sang or danced or played music. The effects of that evening have lingered with me, the image, the music, the songs. And inexplicably over the last several days, I have found myself singing as I never have before, in the shower, in the car, in the office, all hours, all places. I can't say that this has been a joyful singing. It's been more like comfort singing, mainly well-loved hymns from when I was younger, or anthems I remember our choir singing under Bob's direction. It's as if Bob and his love of music have remained in me, with Bob living on in the music and songs that can transform our mood in life-giving ways. And for related reasons, I suppose, I also this week have felt myself especially drawn to the book of Psalms, that wonderful collection of stories and prayers that served as our ancestors' book of worship. The Psalms are very human stories about every imaginable condition of our human experience. The Psalms really are conversations with God. They are songs and prayers from deep within the very human hearts of a people who knew what it was to suffer and to question, to believe, and then to doubt, to feel grievous loss and devastation, to know fear and rage, and also to know the very human feelings of joy, gratitude, and praise. Because the Psalms are filled with raw human emotion, they show us that a song or a prayer to God, even a psalm in the Bible, can be an outburst of pure emotion instead of a pious, proper, careful composition of words. Many of the Psalms are laments, reminding us it is okay to cry out to God in grief or despair or frustration. Psalm 130, for example, begins with the words, "Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord." The Psalms of lament complain to God about the seasons of mourning, alienation, suffering, and death that inevitably come with life. And what's more, the psalmist felt free to blame God for our grief-stricken condition. In reading or singing these ancient songs, we are reminded there is no life that is all light or all darkness, no life that has not been touched by death and grief and loss, and that in every life there is the possibility of deliverance, joy, and healing. For these reasons, the Psalms can teach us to pray and sing in all the seasons of our life. When we read or sing the Psalms, we lift them to God as our prayers, as our songs, as though we are speaking our own words and our own experiences, rather than recalling an ancient litany. And in that way, the Psalms are able to mold and transform us, help us see the bigger picture, help us live in a hope of new life. The Psalms call us to a new wisdom, a wisdom beyond tears. And so it was natural, it seems, that I have been drawn to the Psalms in recent weeks. We can find strong words and images of comfort there. The most beloved of all, of course, is the 23rd Psalm, with its metaphor of the Good Shepherd leading us through the valley of the shadow of death and on to green pastures and still waters. One thing I discovered this week is that this imagery is based in reality. The valley of the shadow of death is, in fact, a very real place in Israel, a real valley. Actually, a mountain pass with an ancient sheep path that got its name from local shepherds because of its steep sides, its sheer rock walls, and the treacherous caves, rocks, and crevices that were perfect hiding places for predators, both animal and human. The valley of the shadow of death was a very real place of danger and death. But for us today, the metaphor still works. The familiar words and images of the 23rd Psalm give comfort to us today, just as they have